Will Sasso from Mad TV, he and his co-host on their podcast, they have a third co-host who is AI. And one day, I think about 3 weeks ago, they announced that their AI co-host, whose name is Dudesy, he had created an entire stand-up special from George Carlin, and based on having fed all of George Carlin's work to him. And it just, yeah. So supposedly, here's an AI generated George Carlin hour of stand up. Carlin's estate, who had already, spoken out against it, they announced they were suing the creators of the podcast for using George Carlin's work to make this, AI. It's AI generated, but technically, it's George Carlin generated his intellectual property. So anyway, within the lawsuit or the article in the New York Times about the lawsuit, it came out that this wasn't actually an AI generated special. It was entirely written by the less famous co-host, Chad Kultgen. And so it was weird for me to listen to this special, knowing all of that. The idea of here is someone pretending to be AI, it was interesting to listen to it that way. And if anyone feels like doing it, it is a fun kind of anthropological experiment, especially if you're familiar with Carlin's work.
Do you think Carlin was like the perfect lightning rod for an AI controversy like this? I mean, I guess there's been, there's the Taylor Swift one. She trumps everything in the galaxy, but Carlin isn't here to defend himself like she is. And his words were already being co-opted and it's sometimes like willfully misrepresented in the real world. Could anyone other than Carlin have like been a bigger name for this or more appropriate name?
No, that's a good question. I think there would have, they could do Richard Pryor and it would have a similar impact, but it would have to be someone of that stature. It had to be like a Pantheon comic. It couldn't, and they have to be dead, to have that kind of impact and have that kind of interest. And then also generate controversy. They knew they were going to generate controversy. I'm not sure if they counted on being sued. They probably should have. But, if it would have been like, Dane Cook or Carlos Mencia or anyone, who popped in the early aughts, someone like that, there wouldn't be the same level of interest. Carlin's work, it does keep coming up again because he said some things in a way that have been generationally sticky. He tends to be a real dudes comic, but he did really have like that talent to just say things and say them in such a way that they stuck around. I'm thinking of just the way he said, like talking about how they were banning toy guns, but they're going to keep the real ones. And yeah, the way he said that is just like seared into my brain, a lot of Carlinisms. So it was interesting to knowing his work as I do, and what it means to people to listen to this. It's pretty obvious that it's neither AI generated or particularly good. It could fool you at first because they have laughs. They have a laugh track in on it. And the experience of hearing someone who sounds a little bit, if you squint with your ears, like Carlin, talking as though he's aware that he's dead, which is the case. That should have been the giveaway. I don't think an AI would have done that. But it does hook you in a little. It's a good hook, I'll say. These aren't great jokes, but just the spectacle of hearing a voice that sounds kind of like Carlin saying stuff to what sounds like a big crowd about, hey, you're about to hear George Carlin's perspective on the world of right now, even though he is dead and aware of his deadness. That is, it is something interesting.